Okay, so predetermined overhead rate. When we're manufacturing something in facility, we can't wait necessarily to apply or to allocate the cost of our overhead to our products, because oftentimes I'm selling my product. You think about, especially modern day manufacturing facilities, they could be manufacturing, thousands or tens of thousands or millions of products in a day. If they waited to the end of the month to say, allocate their rent or electricity or any of those types of things, they would not be capturing the cost of actually manufacturing, and they could be selling their product for substantially less than what the actual cost was, based on not estimating the overhead. So what we do instead is, as we go along, when we're manufacturing, we estimate how much overhead we think we're going to have. And that's just exactly what it sounds like. It's an estimate. We don't know that it's necessarily correct, and we'll handle it on the back end, whether it's how far off we are. And then we're going to figure out something to allocate it based on. That's called an activity base. So an activity base for a driver is a measure of an activity that is related to change in cost used in analyzing and classifying cost behavior. Activity bases are also used as a denominator in calculating predetermined overhead, the predetermined overhead rate to assign cost to cost objects. So effectively, what we're saying is, okay, what drives these costs, what creates these costs, and what is the best way to allocate these costs based on some given activity. So examples of what this could be: oftentimes we use direct labor hours. So for every hour spent, we can allocate a certain amount of overhead. We could use square feet in a facility. If I've got a 10,000 foot facility and I want to allocate the cost of that building, it might be a good idea to use how many square feet each area or maybe each product utilizes in its manufacturing process. So we could split it up that way. There's just a ton of different ways we could do it. But what we want to try and do as best we can is we want to find an activity base that's representative of where the costs actually come from. So if the majority of my cost is rent and actual space for the building, maybe using the square footage one is a good idea. The vast majority of my overhead cost is electricity, then maybe machine hours would be a better way to, or be a better activity base to allocate my overhead cost. Either way, the calculation is exactly the same, whichever activity base we use, and we're going to take the total overhead, estimated total factory overhead, and divide it by the activity base. And what we'll come out with is an overhead allocation rate based on a given allocation base, and then we can allocate from there. It sounds a lot more complicated than it actually is. So let's say, for example, let's say that I had a manufacturing facility, and I was estimating that I was going to have $50,000 worth of estimated overhead for a given period of time. And I estimated, and I want my activity driver, I think the most accurate activity driver for this is going to be my direct labor hours. So I estimated during that same time frame that I'm going to have 10,000 direct labor hours. Let's say this is a month, in that particular month. So all I'm going to do is divide one by the other and find that I will allocate $5 worth of overhead costs. So this 5 is, I'm going to allocate $5 worth of overhead cost per direct labor hour. Okay, and that's really important that I label it per direct labor hour, because I'm not just allocating $5 to each job or each part of the process or anything like that. Instead, what I'm going to say is, how many direct labor hours did I spend? So let's say that on one of my jobs that I'm working on in my manufacturing facility, I ended up spending 2,500 hours on it. Well, then the overhead allocated to that particular job is going to be the $5 per hour times the 2,500 direct labor hours, and so on. So this would be the allocated overhead cost based on those direct labor hours. So that's how we find predetermined overhead rates. So we always got to have an estimated overhead cost and an estimated activity base, and then we will have the ability to create a rate that we can then apply that overhead to individual jobs or processes if we're in process costing, but apply it to those, to the manufacturing, and put it really into my work in process cost. And we'll stop that one there for now.